So far, we've been creating armatures based off of the origin point being at the midline of the grid. But in this case, our origin is in the center of this chicken object, and that's actually fine. That's exactly where we want it to start. So I'll do Shift A to put, or sorry, Shift S to put my cursor to the center. And then I'll do Shift A to add my armature. I'll go ahead and set it to X-ray. And I'll go into my side view, tab into edit mode. And first I'm going to go ahead and do the tail. So you really just need to rig one part of your armature. I would say it's important to challenge yourself and try to do something a little bit more complicated. So there's that first part of the chicken. Now to do the legs, if I wanted to be ambitious, I would need to set on the x-axis mirror. So I check that, x-axis mirror, and then I make sure I have that middle bone end selected. I'll go to my front view. And then I do Shift E to get that first set of parallel bones set up. And then I'll go into my side view and figure out where a chicken's legs go. I'm not really sure. And then I'll extrude down, and I'll go back and forth between my front and my side view. Okay, and then extrude these legs. And then sometimes when you have things like feet, it helps to go into the top view or bottom view, and then I'll extrude out some toes, and then I'll go back to this guy. Whoops, let's see if I can grab this. There we go. Extrude out those toes, go back to him, extrude out these. And normally you want to be checking these from different angles of view, but since we're going to be weight painting them, I think in this case it'll be okay. And then I'll check out the side view just to see how those guys look. Yeah, I probably will have to move them down. So I'll grab these guys, move them down, move them down. There you go. There we go. All right. Actually, I'll move these guys up a little bit. These are kind of up on their toes. There we go. All right. So not brilliant, but it'll work. Let me move this guy down a little bit. Okay, so that would be an example of rigging. Again, you don't have to rig your entire animal, but if it's, it's a good idea to practice this process. All right, so next we would need to weight paint part of it. So I would go to the chicken, I would add the armature, set the armature. Again, I'm going to set it to preserve volume. Now, because I have really small areas like the fingers, I actually don't want to use bone envelopes because often the bone envelopes can accidentally interfere with other parts of the mesh. So I'm going to actually leave bone envelopes unchecked for this part. Now, we don't need to rig the whole thing again, but you do want to try rigging part of it. So if I were just going to do the chicken, maybe I would do one leg or two legs. In this case, just to keep it simple, I'll go ahead and show you how you would rig up the major part of the neck and the tail. Those are simple enough you'd probably want to do both. So I'll go to pose mode, make sure I'm saving this, select that bone, grab the chicken, go to weight paint, and I'm going to make sure that I have X mirror turned on. And I'm actually using, just so you can tell, a brush that's set to add, and I have the strength pulled way down. And this way, because there's so many different bones in this, the different bones can influence each other sort of in a varied way. So then I'll grab this bone, I'll go back to side view. And so this is overlapping with the other bone, but I'm just making sure there's just a little bit more weight in the middle. And then the head. You probably want to make sure that I got the top part of the head. Now when you're weight painting the head or other parts, you want to make sure that you're not accidentally grabbing weight painting some part back here or something. So if I tried to move the head, you can see it's moving that little bit of the tail too. So I would want to just make sure that as I'm weight painting, I'm testing out those rotations. So for instance here, I'm missing some, but that looks pretty good. I don't have the eyes. There we go. And then I'll fix that. And then when I go back to the pose mode, I'll just set that pose back to neutral. Now the eyes actually are a separate object, so I'd have to attach this armature to those eyes too, but I'll do that in a minute. And then I'll test this guy out. So again, I'm missing little pieces. Sometimes it's hard to tell what part or which bone it should be attached to, so I have to grab the right bone. And then I'll grab this bone. There we go. That looks pretty good. I'll test this guy out one more time. There we go. Maybe a little bit there. Top of the head. All right. And then I'll do the tail. So I'll get some of that tail. That sounds weird. I didn't mean it that way. There we go. Maybe I'll get the body. And again, you want to test these things out, see how they look. Go to my side view, get that tail, see how it looks on the sideways. And we'll go to 3. And then there's that guy. Can't remember if I rotated him around yet or not. So anyway, that would be the basic testing of it. Now I'll go back to object mode. I'll grab those bones. I'll select all of them. And I will go to clear transform. So it gets back to that neutral pose. And by the way, to handle the eyes, in this case, I would go to eyes. I would add a modifier. And I'm just going to actually use the same armature. I'm going to preserve volume. And I don't really want those eyes to move around too much, so I'm just going to attach them to the head. And actually, if I'm lucky, nope, doesn't quite work that way. All right, so with the eyes selected, there's that. I'm going to go ahead and go to weight paint. And then I'm just going to make sure that those eyes are weight painted really heavily. So actually, I'd probably pull up the strength all the way. I'm going into Z mode so I can make sure I got both those eyes. Everything bright red. Go out of Z mode, go to object mode, and then I can test that. Now the eyes follow along with that. Okay, I changed this to material view so we can see this chicken in all its finery. But basically then I would go ahead and, I already set up some keyframes here. I would go ahead and set up some keyframes, move ahead, move the bones around how I might want. Maybe in my top view, I'll move this head this way. I'll select everything, hit I, and insert rotation. And maybe one more keyframe. How about we'll have this chicken look back this way, and maybe turn its head that way, and then maybe, you know, like he's going to peck down that way or something. And again, I'll select everything, I, rotation. You only need like 40 seconds of animation or so, so I'll set the beginning and end point to 40, and basically go through and render this beautiful chicken.